Hi, Shauna. You're very welcome to the podcast, Talking Sport with Stan. Delighted to have you on.
Thanks a million, Sean.
Great. Really appreciate you taking time out now. I know you have a very busy schedule and it's not easy in these times. I see you're doing a lot of online classes these days.
I am. I've online classes up and running, and I'm also Zooming. So we're doing the virtual and the online to keep people moving, I suppose, during these
Yeah.
times.
And did it take long to get that process going? Or
I had the online classes up in a week and a half, and then the virtual classes, the Zoom classes, took a bit longer. But because a lot of people are quite nervous of technology and stuff.
oh
Also,
yeah,
people's connections, people don't have good internet connections. So it's slow, but, there's a few of us in the class, and it's great because it's getting me moving again, which is
yeah.
important.
Of course, and when you get the first one up and running and get it working, it makes an awful
Yeah,
difference.
yeah.
So, Shauna, look at just to give you a brief introduction for let you talk about things and share your story. You're a specialist clinical Pilates teacher and you're operating at an in-house Pilates studio and Miranda Moran's physio practice. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, great. So I suppose for anyone listening, Shauna, we might start with, I suppose, the origins of Pilates. Where did Pilates come about?
Well, actually, a lot of people don't realize that Pilates was actually a man. He was a German, and he was born in 1883. And he was actually a very sickly child. He had rickets and asthma, and he was written off by a lot of the doctors. So he tried to prove them wrong, and he created, or he started studying different various of exercises to expand his knowledge. And he was very interested in the Greek ideal of the man balanced in body and mind to develop his own exercise system based on this concept, which he actually called contrology. So as he grew up, he became much stronger, and he actually became a skier, a diver, gymnast, and a boxer.
Oh,
And he then emigrated to the UK. And during World War I, he was thrown into prison. And while he was in prison, he started using his form of exercise on the other prisoners to try and help them strengthen up. And that's, there was a lot of prisoners who were bedridden. So he started using the springs in the beds to help work with resistance and to try to get them moving again. And that's where he actually developed a lot of his, later on, he had developed the Reformer, the Cadillac, and these are all equipment basically with resistance and springs. So that's where that all came from.
wow, yeah,
After
some
he got out
story.
of prison, sorry,
Go ahead.
After he got out of prison, he then left for the States, where he met his wife, and they opened a little studio in Manhattan and started teaching Pilates there. Well, he actually called it contrology. So a lot of the ballerinas started coming to him. And from there, he kind of got a good name with actors and people like that. And then in 1967, he passed away at the age of 87. And that's when the name changed from contrology to Pilates.
Okay, very good.
Mm.
Got some background.
Yeah, so like a lot of people don't actually realize that there was
No,
actually a man behind it. And that's where the name comes from.
yeah,
So he was a German man, Joseph Pilates.
it's some story.
Yeah.
And you yourself then, how did you find yourself going down the route of Pilates or, taking on that profession and
Well, what happened
whatnot
was
stuff?
I was living in Uganda in East Africa, and I was living there for 18 years.
Okay,
And
what age did you go over there at?
I went there, God, I must have been 22, 23.
Okay, very good.
So when I was there, I had my kids, of course. I came back to Ireland to have the kids. And when I went back to Uganda, like Kian, he was 1 week old when we arrived back in Kampala. And I just felt I had two kids very close together. And I just felt that I wasn't very strong with regards bending and all that sort of stuff. So I went to a few physios, and then I found this Pilates instructor, and everything that she said to me made sense. And I started doing Pilates, and I fell in love with the exercise itself because it just made sense to me, and I could see how my body was getting stronger on it. And that's basically, I took it up after having the kids, and
Very
I fell
good.
in love with it then. Yeah.
So you would have gained great experience too over there and
I
different
did.
methods, I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
they would have been well ahead of the curve.
Yeah. And then when the girl, she was actually a ballerina to begin with, and then she
Huh.
got into Pilates. And when she left Uganda, she asked me to take over her class. So I
Oh
traveled down to
wow,
South Africa to do all my training. And then I started a little studio out in Kampala.
brilliant.
So,
And
yeah.
was that process long? You know, as regards taking the classes, you know, becoming qualified, was it a long process?
Well,
I
I
suppose
worked a lot
involved.
with Simone before she left.
Okay.
And then I had, the girls that were coming to me. But I wanted to get my qualifications. So I went and I studied with a crowd called Stop Pilates. They were the only company who were doing the course within 2 weeks. Whereas I had two babies or two little ones at home and I didn't want to
Mm,
leave them for longer. So like there's lots of different schools you can go with. So I
yeah.
went with Stott because they did it in the 2 week course. And then when I came back to Ireland, I continued training with Stott.
Good, fair play. Do you ever look back and say, God, I done well there now to get all that going and keep the life balance, you know, with the kids as well and being so young and ensuring you have enough time with them.
Yeah,
It
I think
can't have been easy.
well, when you find something you're very passionate about it and you know it works,
Yeah,
then not everyone is going to love what you do, but even if you find two people and you can help them, to me it's worth it.
yeah, yeah.
So
And you
yeah.
prioritize well too, I suppose, because if you dived in and took the wrong approach, you know, you could have jeopardized it as well.
Yeah, and how I worked was when the kids are at school, then that's when I teach my classes.
Yeah,
And my classes are always very small classes. I won't allow more than 6 in a class. So everyone is getting the benefit.
yeah, very important.
Yeah.
Very important. And then I suppose you made your way back to, how long are you in Newtown now, or operating from Newtown?
I opened the business there in March 2015,
Okay.
and it's grown steadily since then. Like when I opened, I was just teaching maths, and now I'm teaching reformer. So I did lots of courses up with Stop Pilates in Dublin, and I've also done lots of courses with Bassi. And I've studied the reformer. I've done 3 different courses on the reformer. I've studied injuries in special populations. And I've done a few courses now during this time as well, because I think it's very important to keep on top of your game, because the body is such a complex machine, as I call it, that you need to know what you're doing.
Yeah, and it's forever changing. Even the
It is.
information being released, like
Yeah.
it's never stagnant.
No,
No,
it's fascinating actually.
no, it's good. And it's great to be in that sort of a zone that, you know, that you still have that passion to improve, that passion to learn.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
I'm very lucky to be working in something that I love. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And I can see the benefits because I can see how it's helping clients become stronger. It's changing their posture. It's changing everything about them. And, they'll come to me and they'll say that someone who they haven't met in 6 months could notice a huge difference in their body. And stuff like that is just so reassuring.
yeah, of
So it's
course. And
great.
I'm sure, like when you came at first, you know, and you set up in 2015, you set up in Newton. I'm sure this would have been so new to a lot of people. You know, from the experience you would have came from before, where it was kind of like as you described, like it was a way of life for a lot of people, and people were very accustomed to it. Then you move over, you move over here, you set up in Newtown. I'm sure there's a lack of education about what Pilates is. People would be a bit reserved just to jump in. Did
Oh,
you find that at the start? Yeah.
yeah. And like how I work is everyone that comes to me has to come for an introduction first. So it's a 1-to-1 where we sit down and we spend an hour going through the body. It's basically a bit like a biology lesson.
Hmm.
And then I teach you how to engage your deep core muscles. So, you can go to a Pilates class and you can work out for an hour, but if you don't understand the basic principles and the smallest little movements done correctly are the biggest benefits. So
Absolutely.
everyone that has come to me and everyone in my class, they've all spent an hour with me on a 1-to-1 basis. So it was very slow to start off with. And that's how I built up my client base.
Yeah.
Everyone in my class had an hour with me on their own to begin with, which to me is so important.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And then I'm sure you've seen, the clientele that would have came at first to you, that has grown, I'm sure, over the years too, and
Oh, it
people from
has, and
all
it's
sorts of
amazing.
backgrounds.
Some of them have stuck with me throughout.
Yeah.
But like getting back to the question that you asked me there as well, coming from Uganda and down in South Africa, and Pilates is huge down in the Southern Hemisphere. So when you
Yeah.
look at all the rugby players and the soccer players down there, a lot of them were doing Pilates
Yeah.
at that time. Whereas Pilates now, it's been recognized by you know, if you speak to the Sanitary Sports Clinic, they recognize Pilates. And a lot of the doctors now and the physios, which is great, are realizing that Pilates is actually beneficial.
Oh, it's essential.
Getting the medical behind it now, which is great.
It's so important. And I'm not sure if you were, are you into your sports documentaries?
I am.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched The Last Dance there recently.
I did, it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that struck me about their coaching system back in that time, the 80s, 90s, how they adopted a lot of these principles, you know, these principles into their setups. It just goes to show at that time how far ahead they were.
Oh, totally. And like when you think about it, you know, Joseph Pilates, he was born in 1883 and he only died there in 1967. So like he was running his Pilates studio in New York, like in the 50s.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. It's hard to fathom, really, you know, because it's, you know, still relatively new to us here, especially in our local area. But it's continuing to grow. And obviously, I was very fortunate to fall into your hands there last year with our manager Tommy Donoghue there from Kilo. He took, you know, and I have to commend him for it because he took the chance to bring a group of us over to you. And like Pilates was something that would have been on my mind a while back, because I would have experienced a lot of injuries and stuff, but I just didn't take that step to go, you know, which is so important. But that day, we went over and it changed the game for me. It really did. And as you said there, you know, spending the time with you there at first, you know, in that one-to-one session, getting to know the basics, because you could very easily go into a class there and get lost if you don't. You have to understand what you're doing.
Well, you do. And it's all mind-body movement. So, you know, you're working your baby muscles to get your bigger muscles stronger. So, for example, playing football, like you do, your hamstrings will get very, very tight. In Pilates, we're working on strengthening and lengthening your muscles. So you're actually protecting your body by, you know, working those muscles, but also strengthening up all your joints and giving you extra, you know, power, if that makes sense to you, with the breathing and with everything that goes with it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And it takes time. Like it takes a couple of sessions to get into it.
Yeah, but I say to people, you're probably going to hate it to begin with. But if you do stick with it, after about 10 to 12 sessions, you're flying.
Yeah.
But it's not a quick fix.
Oh, absolutely not. No, but like I have to say from my own experience, like, you know, we go in from my GA background, we go in from a GA experience each year, and you're looking at your training, you're looking at your gym work, you know, they're your priorities really. But for me, when I adopted Pilates and I got involved with yourself, you know, it was these extra tools I brought to my game. It was the Pilates. It was my wife, Alina, you know, she's an art therapist and she has a good, you know, a psychological background, and there was lots of tools I pulled from her as well. It was actually those two things that made such a difference to my year last year, I found. And even anything that kept me off the pitch last year was, say, a bang or a knock, you know, anything muscular, it just disappeared.
Oh, that's great.
You know? Yeah. And it's funny, the amount of people, you know, that you would come across throughout the year. And, you know, they would ask me, you know, they'd hear you're doing Pilates and they'd ask me, you know, oh, and how much is that? And, you know, I tell them it's the first one-to-one is free, Sean, is it?
That's right.
Yeah. And then it's €50 for the next one.
Then it's 45. And 45. I usually advise 2 one-to-ones.
Yeah. And
then get you into a group class.
Yeah. So, you know, I'd explain that to them, and then we have our group class then after that, which would be, is it €15, isn't it, per class? Yeah. But it's funny, sometimes you'd also, you know, you tell someone that, you almost imagine that the blood is draining from their face, like the shock that they're getting because of the price. But for me, it was never that, because the same people that would react that way would spend money on maybe footwear they don't need, training gear they don't need. They might go out at the weekend, spend €60-80 on a night out and never think twice about it the next day. But for me, I was investing in my body. And if I could go out on the pitch and play injury free, then that was worth every cent.
Yeah. Well, you see, you only have one body. You know what I mean? And you have to invest in it.
Of course.
But like my whole thing is, you can go and join all these different classes and whatever, but if you don't understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, it's a waste of money. So there are people who come to me and say, no, they don't want to do one-to-one. They want to join a class straight away. They're going to be lost, and they're going to spend 10 classes finding out what it's all about. And then eventually they're going to start working the muscles that I want them to work. Whereas if they had to start crawling before they start to run and start off with the basics, then they're going to fly. And that's how and you know, a lot of people say, oh, they want to get into a class, and I'm quite strict on, you have to do your introduction first, because it's hugely beneficial.
Yeah, but that's a very important message too, though, Shauna, because it shows you care as well. You're not just bringing 20, 30 people into a room.
No.
You know, like you care about the person. You want to actually show them the ropes. Like it took me surely that 5 to 8 classes before even the breathing caught with me. You know, and I knew straight away.
And the breathing, that's the one thing, people will hold their breath because they're listening to me.
Yeah.
And when we're talking right now, you're not holding your breath. You breathe normally.
Yeah.
But I have to keep shouting at people to breathe, because we all hold our breath. Yeah. You know, and the breath is what gives you the strength. So it's like learning a new language, you know.
Exactly. You can't just dive in with difficult
stuff.
No,
you can't.
You have to start with the basics.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's so, like, it's, as you know, you talk about the impact it has on the body. You're talking about, you know, a strong core. You're talking about your increasing your strength, your flexibility, and your posture. Your posture is so important, I think.
It is, yeah.
Like we're a lot of us going around with hunchbacks there, you wouldn't even realize. And
but when you look at how we live our lives today, you know, a lot of people, especially in Longford, they're traveling, if not to Mullingar, to Dublin every day for work. And that could be anywhere from an hour and a half in the car to 2 hours one direction. And your hip flexors are getting tight, you're slumped over that steering wheel, you're in a traffic jam, you're slumped more, your arm might be out the window. And that's got a huge, you know, negative impact on your body.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'll always talk about, when you come to me, first is your breath, number one, and two is your posture, because your posture is everything. And if you stand up nice and tall and you're in the correct alignment, you're going to be able to breathe so much more. You're going to have so much more strength. And because you can breathe, you're getting oxygen into your blood supply, and therefore you've got much more power. Yeah. So it all leads to the next, to becoming stronger. Whereas if you sit and you slump, you're just crushing all your organs.
And it's very easy to slip into that mold, you know.
It is, and we all do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I even find, like, you just become more aware, you know, when you get involved in Pilates, and you just become more aware in general of how you're sitting, even in the car, how you're walking, you know, and
that's the key. You know, people, when they come to me for the first one-to-one and they say, my God, they were just thinking of their posture all week. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, it's on the mind. And just being aware, like so many things in life, just being aware.
You know, if they come to me for that one-to-one and they never come back, then I believe my job's done in a way, because I've given them the tools to help them. You know, not everyone is going to come to me and say, oh, this is fabulous, I want to come back. But they still are going to leave with 5 principles that I've given them to help them stand nice and tall, to help them start engaging muscles, to take the pressure out of their lower back and become stronger. Because when you think about it, when we slump, we're putting all the pressure of our body into our lower back. And it's no wonder people come in complaining of issues with L4, L5 and S1, S2, and it's because of slumping, really.
Yeah, and it's such a common problem. Back problems are so common.
Oh, it is, yeah. So, and I also find that taking that 1 hour out of the day for you, where, you know, it's all about mind, body, and movement. Yeah. So, you know, I'm telling you, you're swallowing your ribs, you're zipping up your pelvic floor, your shoulder blades are expanding on the inhale, and you're focusing on all those muscles and all the movements in your body that's happening normally when you breathe. But if you don't focus on them and your mind starts to wander, nothing is going to work. So it's all about focusing on the muscles and listening to your body and working with that, which will improve your movement. But which means for that 1 hour, you have taken that 1 hour for you, and people feel fabulous at the end of the class. Then they're able to take on whatever comes their way.
Oh, super feeling, yeah.
Because we all kind of live in a bit of a rat race.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Used to set me up for my school days now.
Yeah, and the breathing is key in all of that. You know, if people have panic attacks and things like that, it's all about breathing and calming down. Or when, you know, a kid falls and cuts their knee, we're all talking about them to breathe. So breathing is huge. Yes. You know, and the majority of us humans don't know how to breathe. We're all breathing into the top lobes and we're getting really tense in our neck and shoulders. And even if you just come to one class and learn that breathing technique, you're stronger from it.
Yeah, it's invaluable. Yeah.
You know, it is huge.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier on, in your early days when you were training over in Uganda and you were waiting, you know, while the kids were at school, that's when you'd, or was this, this was in Uganda time, wasn't it? Where the kids would be at school and that's when you'd hold your classes.
Yes.
Has that changed much now?
A little bit. So like my first class in the morning is at 6:20. So they're usually sleeping away at that time. And then when I finish, so my classes are 1 hour. And then I'll come home, get them ready for school. They're on the bus and off to school. So yeah. And then, you know, when they come home from school, I'm there, and then I teach a class in the evening as well. So we get the dinner out of the way and then back to my classes. And the reason I teach so many different classes during the day is because I don't want more than 6 people. Like, so some of my classes, there may be only 1 or 2 people in the class, but I'm happy as long as it's not 7.
Yeah.
You know, so, and it's about doing it right, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's, you know, like when that is your commitment and that's your, you know, that's the way you lay it out, you know, I think the message is clear, you know, that you're going there. I know, definitely from my experience, you're going there, you know, you're being watched, you know, you're being looked after. And I think with any service, that's vitally important, you know, because as
but
I said,
it's kind of as well trying to understand how to move your body parts with your abdominal muscles instead of doing it with your body.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it did definitely, but it takes so long to master. You know, it's like it's minimal, the little improvement you make, you know, and push.
And that's what people find very hard, because I have a lot of people coming to me who run marathons, who are in triathlons and stuff like that, and they're used to doing huge movements. This could be the smallest little movement, and it takes time to understand that.
Yeah, but I can't stress enough how the benefits of it, you know, when you crack it and when you start to master it, it just transforms your body. I just wish I knew I was involved in this years ago, you know.
But it's the same as myself. Like, I didn't discover Pilates till after I had the kids.
Yeah.
And I just think, you know, if I had to know this before I had the kids, because I teach a lot of girls who come to me, you know, they're expecting their babies and stuff, and the feedback I get is huge, you know, and it's like, I didn't know any of that before I went in to have my kids, you know, but then they just said that the breathing and everything is just really helping them. And the recovery rate is so much stronger, which is brilliant.
That's why it's so important, I feel, to get the message out there for any. I'm just thinking in my game of GA, like young lads who might be experiencing injury and can't crack it. It could just be you know, it could solve all the problems from an early age.
Yeah, but like the other thing you need to realize that it's not, you don't have to be an athlete to do this. You know, I have my youngest clients were 12, and my oldest clients coming to me are in their early 80s.
Yeah.
You know, so, and some people are very, very fit, some people aren't. So, you know, you get all different, you know, it's great for rehab. You see lots of clients like in the States who've got limbs, for example, missing and stuff like that. And how do you build up your muscles, you know, when you have a fake leg, or, you know, it's amazing what can be done, the science behind it.
Yeah. And it's great even for, you know, as you talk about the people in their, you know, their 80s or later life, you know, it's great that they have something that they can still commit to as well. It's very important for them.
Well, it is. And I think it's an hour for them out where they come down. And like, it's quite funny. I have one lady, and every time she leaves, she's just smiling from ear to ear. To be honest with you, I think it's because I've been at her to breathe so much when she was in the class. So she's full of oxygen, and she's delighted with herself. But it's just really helping them, which is fun, you know.
It is, so rewarding for you too, I'm sure.
Oh, it is, yeah. You know, and like one of Joseph Pilates' quotes was like, if you have a stiff and inflexible spine at 30, you're old. Whereas if you're flexible at 80, you're young.
Yeah.
And it's so true.
Oh, it is so true, yeah. Actually, look, it's evident everywhere. You see it around you. You know, you can spot someone a mile away who has posture issues, or you know. But again, it's like anything in life too. It has to start with yourself. You have to be willing to make the change. You know, or you know, all this information can be out there, but unless the person themselves takes the step and to improve and correct issues.
Putting yourself first.
Yeah.
None of us do that.
No.
You know, there's always the kids, there's always something to put first. But if you don't put yourself first, you know, your kids need you, you know, and your sport needs you, for example, and you have to start working on you to become stronger.
Yeah.
So to me, it's definitely worth it. You know, even for your head, it's worth it.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And is sport big in your household now at the minute, Shauna? It is.
Oh, it is. Like, it's funny. When I came back, Kira was in sixth class and Cian was in fifth, and they took up Gaelic football. And they were very
Okay.
lucky that the school's team was a good Gaelic football team. And they've really taken to the Gaelic football. Like, my daughter now plays for the county. She was on the team last year that won the B final for the minors.
Excellent.
So it's great to see them doing so well in Gaelic football. You know what I mean? Since we lived away for so long. They missed their swimming, of course. They used to do a lot of swimming in Uganda, but it was a bit early in the morning here for them, so we gave them a break.
Yeah, the swimmers should be up early, don't they?
They are. Yeah.
Great.
But,
so, is it? I suppose you're never off the road, probably, are you?
No, well, like, my son now is on the golf course at the minute. He was out there
is he?
7 this morning. Yeah, so he loves the golf.
Great. Yeah, it's big interest in it now.
Oh yeah, he's going to be a professional golfer, he tells me. But anyway, we just keep breathing and keep going and hope for the best. You know, that's all you can do.
And how is their attitude towards Pilates at the minute? I suppose, you know, when you're so involved yourself, are they interested in it, or is it something, you know, sometimes it can be the opposite?
Or they're definitely interested. And like, I had Cian down with a few of his friends because he was better coming with his friends than on his own.
Yeah.
He was, you know, complaining of his hamstrings and stuff. And I put them on the machine. So like the Reformer, it's a machine. I've got 6 of them now. I've invested and brought them in from Canada. And it's an amazing piece of equipment with springs and pulleys. And it's to help strengthen and lengthen your muscles. So of course, the lads, their hamstrings are really bad. But I know if Cian's in a class with his friends, that he won't be given out as much.
Yeah.
And it's just really good for helping, you know, because you look at a lot of the young kids today playing football and playing sports, and at the age of 20 and 21, they're going for operations. And, you know, I just think it's very, you know,
it's not normal. It's not right.
It's not good.
No.
And I think they're nearly, if you're good at a sport, they're nearly playing on every single team. So, you know, there's a lot of kids being overplayed, and I don't think it's good for their bodies. And I think they need to look after their bodies too.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's great now, but you're risking losing them down the line.
Oh, you are.
Yeah. Because they're going to get fed up too.
That is the scary thing to, you know, it's 2021 going for, you know, hip operations and going for your cruciate ligament, you know, and all these sort of.
Yeah, just for the sake of sacrificing a little bit now, you know, there's loads out there participating in, but missing an odd training session here or there, missing a match isn't going to be to be all and end all, you know.
Yeah.
No, it's a very important message. I see it everywhere. You know, I think kids are overworked in a lot of areas.
But it is improving, as you said, compared to, you know, years ago. But it's still there, I think, in some parts.
Yeah, it's just getting the education out and getting the awareness out.
Yeah.
That's the most important part, you know, because kids, you put kids into any field, they'll play anything and they'll play as much of it as they're able to, you know, but they need somebody over them with that guidance that kind of sees the bigger picture and sees down the line, you know, what's best for them.
Yeah.
Because we all remember that age where we play anything. We play soccer, rugby, we go out running and playing. Yeah. Full on. Well, that's great, Shauna. You're on the spot questions. What has the lockdown taught you?
I think during the lockdown now, I've had to push myself and get out of my comfort zone. And years ago, when I came back to Ireland, my clients in Kampala wanted me to do online classes for them, and I refused. So I've had to do it now. So I've had to get out of my comfort zone, which I hate the camera. I hate all this sort of stuff. Even this interview today wouldn't be my cup of tea. But the lockdown has really helped me get out of my comfort zone. It's thrown me out there where I've made contact with a lot more Pilates instructors throughout the world and attended their classes. And I've been doing lots of different workshops and learning, which I think is just so important, because you're never going to know it all. And there's so many different aspects and there's no right or wrong way. So that's what the lockdown has been kind of putting.
Great. I think what you said there, the day you think you're done learning, you're finished.
Oh yeah. And like, you know, I've done all my training on the reformer and the mat and injuries and spot populations and different things like that. But there's other equipment like the Cadillac and the chair and the arc bar, and I really want to study those. So I have to look into that now in the next year and see where I can go to get my qualifications and the rest of the equipment.
Fantastic.
So exciting. Yeah.
Great. What other forms of exercise do you enjoy outside of Pilates?
When I was younger, I used to do a lot of running. Community
Do you run
games.
now?
Huge. I don't, because I don't really have the time. But over lockdown now, I've started to do some running again. Clongish, we're doing a charity for the little boy.
That's right. Yeah, do it for Dan. Yeah.
So Kieran Keane were out cycling and running and all that sort of stuff. So I joined them in that, which kind of forced me to get out there. I used to play a lot of basketball when I was younger, but I don't do any of that anymore.
Ah, well, look at time. I suppose that's something you're very conscious of as well. Managing your time. Do you think you have a good grasp on it? Have you a good system going at the minute?
I do. Yeah, I probably
you sound hesitant.
More time for me, but we'll get there.
Well, very important to make time for you and all this.
It is. Yeah. It's just a jumping game.
You do so much for, I hope you realize you do so much for people that, it is very important that you take time for yourself as well.
It is. And I have people say, no, why don't you throw these and these together and, not teach as much? And but my problem with that is then I'm going to have beginners and I'm going to have intermediate and then I'm going to have advanced. So, I do an awful lot of different classes, but I'm in control of them.
Yeah.
If that makes sense to you. And,
yeah.
it's not going to be always like that. But I think you have to start someplace.
Yeah. Oh, you're doing great. As I said, you've taken, since the lockdowns come in, you've taken a few massive steps, and you shouldn't worry about the nerves before these. I get them before every podcast, so I wouldn't be worrying. But
okay.
I really appreciate you taking the time out, Sean. I know how busy you are, and I really appreciate the service you provide in our county. I think it's invaluable, and you've done wonders for me, and my season last year wouldn't have been what it was without your input, so I'm forever thankful to you. And
I'm delighted to hear that, because that makes my job so much worthwhile. When even if 2 people get benefits from it, then my job's done.
Well, if I'm on the pitch, I'm happy. My manager's happy.
Yeah,
I'm not complaining as much either. Yeah, but I think as you get on to, you realise the beauty of any field you're in, as you're saying, not just sport, but just being able to do the basics. Like, I think down the line too, if it comes to the day where you stop playing, I want to be able to do other things. I don't want to be confined with niggles and injuries that are going to prevent me from maybe trying other things that I've always thought about, or different sports, or or you were saying the basics, even getting out for a little jog yourself, a cycle, a walk.
But you also need to start thinking about, we're all getting older, and when you get older, you want to make sure that you're still strong. And one of the most reasons why people have to go to nursing homes is to go from sitting to standing, which to you and me is so easy to do right now.
Yeah.
So, basic things we need to keep working on. So when we do get that bit older, we're still strong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, we start aging from the age of 30. So, we're all in there.
That's great, Sean. Yeah, it's a great lesson to finish on. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
No, you're very welcome, Sean. Look after yourself.
Really appreciate you. Thanks very much.
All the best.
Bye.